Gregory Peck finally breaks silence on Robert Mitchum. Gregory Peck was born Eldred Gregory Peck on April 5, 1916 in La Jolla, California. His childhood was not always easy. His parents divorced when he was just a young boy and he was largely raised by his grandmother. Despite these early challenges, Peck's tall stature, commanding presence, and quiet dignity set him apart from an early age. After attending San Diego State College, he transferred to the University of California, Berkeley, where he developed a strong interest in acting. It was here that Peck discovered the craft that would define the course of his life, and he soon decided to pursue it with conviction. In the 1940s, Peck began his career on the stage, and his dedication and natural talent quickly led him to Broadway. His performances caught the attention of Hollywood and he made his film debut in Days of Glory, 1944. Audiences were immediately struck by his sincerity, his ability to portray characters with warmth and moral strength, and his striking physical presence. Within a very short time, Peck became a leading man, starring in classics like The Keys of the Kingdom, 1944, for which he earned his first Academy Award nomination, and Spellbound, 1945, directed by Alfred Hitchcock. As the 1940s and 1950s progressed, Peck's career soared. He became one of the top box office stars of the era. Known for his versatility and his ability to embody a wide range of characters, he played a tormented newspaper man in Gentleman's Agreement, 1947, a film that boldly tackled the subject of anti-Semitism, and his performance earned him another Academy Award nomination. In westerns like Jewel in the Sun, 1946, and The Gunfighter, 1950, he brought gravity and depth to a genre often dominated by action rather than character study. He also excelled in romantic dramas such as Roman Holiday, 1953, where his chemistry with Audrey Hepburn created one of cinema's most beloved pairings. The defining role of Peck's career came in 1962 when he portrayed the principled lawyer Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird. Based on Harper Lee's Pulitzer Prize-winning novel, the film presented Peck as a man of unwavering morality, compassion, and courage. His quiet strength and powerful performance earned him the Academy Award for Best Actor, and Atticus Finch became a cultural icon symbolizing fairness, justice, and the best of American values. Even decades later, this role is consistently cited as one of the greatest in cinematic history. Peck's career continued strongly through the 1960s, 70s, and into the 80s with memorable performances in films such as Cape Fear, 1962, where he played against type as a victim of Robert Mitchum's menacing villain, The Guns of Navarone, 1961, an epic war adventure, and McKenna's Gold, 1969, which displayed his charisma in Western storytelling. In 1976, he appeared in the chilling thriller The Omen, introducing himself to a new generation of moviegoers and proving his ability to adapt to the evolving tastes of audiences. Beyond his work on screen, Gregory Peck was admired for his integrity, compassion, and humanitarian efforts. He was outspoken on issues of social justice, civil rights, and freedom of expression. He supported liberal causes, lent his name and time to organizations promoting equality, and never shied away from taking a moral stand, even if it was unpopular. For his contributions to the arts and to society, he received numerous honors, including the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 1969, one of the highest civilian honors in the United States. In October 1942, during the early years of his rising career, Gregory Peck married Finnish-American Greta Kuusinen, 1911–2008. Greta, who had immigrated to the United States from Finland, was a woman of remarkable independence and business sense. She later became involved in charitable and humanitarian work, and during her lifetime she played an important role in the Finnish-American community in Los Angeles. With Greta, Peck built his first family and together they welcomed 3 sons into the world. Their first child Jonathan Peck was born in 1944, followed by Stephen in 1946 and then Carrie Paul in 1949. Each child brought joy and fulfillment into Peck's life at a time when his career in Hollywood was also flourishing. Although the marriage between Gregory and Greta lasted for over a decade, the couple eventually drifted apart with differences that could not be reconciled. After years of strain, they officially divorced in December 1955, ending a 13-year marriage. The divorce was a painful chapter in Peck's personal life. But the most devastating blow came years later with the loss of his eldest son, Jonathan. On June 26, 1975, Jonathan was found dead at his home in what authorities concluded was a suicide. He was only 30 years old. The tragedy left an indelible scar on PC's heart, and it became a sorrow he carried with him for the rest of his life. Speaking openly about the loss, Peck once admitted, "It's the most terrible thing that has happened to me in my life. You never get over a thing like that." His words reflected the deep anguish of a father who, despite his fame and achievements, could not shield his family from heartbreak. Those who knew Peck said that Jonathan's death profoundly changed him, giving his quiet dignity and compassion an even deeper layer of empathy and gravity. Only a short time after his first marriage ended, Gregory Peck found love again. On New Year's Eve in 1955, just one day after his divorce from Greta was finalized, he married the French-born journalist Véronique Parny, 1932–2012. Véronique had first encountered Peck in 1952 while working as a reporter in Paris. She was assigned to interview him just before he departed for Italy to film Roman Holiday, the picture that would become one of the most iconic roles of his career. Their meeting left a lasting impression, and 6 months later, Peck reached out to ask her to lunch. That single gesture marked the beginning of a lifelong romance. The two soon became inseparable, united not only by affection but also by a shared love of culture, travel, and family life. Together, Gregory and Véronique welcomed 2 children. Their son Anthony Peck was born in 1956, followed by their daughter Cecilia Peck in 1958. Anthony grew up to follow in his father's footsteps, pursuing acting while also becoming known for his high-profile marriage to supermodel Cheryl Tees, though the union later ended in divorce. Cecilia also embraced the creative arts, becoming an actress, producer, and documentary filmmaker, carrying forward her father's legacy of thoughtful storytelling. Unlike PC's first marriage, his second union endured. Gregory and Véronique remained married for nearly half a century, from 1955 until his death in 2003. Their partnership was widely admired in Hollywood, with many describing them as one of the industry's most devoted and enduring couples. Gregory Peck also cherished his role as a grandfather, finding joy in the continuation of his family through multiple generations. He had grandchildren from both of his marriages, and among them is actor Ethan Peck, the son of Stephen Peck. Ethan has carried on the family's artistic tradition, gaining recognition in television and film, including his role as Spock in the Star Trek Discovery series and its spin-off, Strange New Worlds. Through his children and grandchildren, PC's legacy continues not only in Hollywood, but also in the values of integrity, compassion, and dignity that he embodied throughout his life. For years, Hollywood insiders and classic film fans speculated about the relationship between 2 of the greatest actors of their generation, Gregory Peck and Robert Mitchum. Both men were towering figures in cinema, embodying strength, integrity, and charisma in very different ways. Peck was often remembered for his noble, dignified screen presence, the ultimate symbol of moral authority in films like To Kill a Mockingbird. Mitchum, by contrast, carried with him a rugged, unpredictable energy, an actor whose cool detachment and quiet menace made him one of the most compelling stars of the mid-20th century. While the two appeared together most famously in Cape Fear, 1962, with Peck as the principled lawyer and Mitchum as the terrifying ex-con, neither man ever spoke at length about the other, leaving fans to wonder whether they had been friends, rivals, or simply professional colleagues who went their separate ways after the cameras stopped rolling. It was not until later in his life that Gregory Peck finally chose to address the subject, giving rare insight into his thoughts on Robert Mitchum as both an actor and a man. Peck, usually careful and measured in his public statements, surprised many by offering a heartfelt acknowledgement of Mitchum's talent. He admitted that while their acting styles could not have been more different, his own grounded in classical training, deliberate preparation, and a deep moral conviction, while Mitchum often leaned on instinct, minimal rehearsal, and an effortless naturalism. He held a profound respect for Mitchum's artistry. Mitchum, Peck once explained, had a way of inhabiting a character that didn't look like acting at all. He made it look easy, but that was his genius. Coming from Peck, whose career had been built on discipline and refinement, this was a powerful testament to Mitchum's unique screen presence. PC also shared memories of working with Mitchum on Cape Fear, a project that demanded the two actors play polar opposites. PC, the embodiment of upright decency; Mitchum, the very face of evil and intimidation. PC revealed that even off camera, Mitchum carried an intimidating aura, one that made the role of Max Cady all the more chilling. Yet, Peck was quick to add that behind the scenes, Mitchum's wit and intelligence often lightened the mood. He described him as a man who could disarm a tense set with a single sarcastic remark or a quick laugh, a trait that kept the long, grueling shoot bearable. For Peck, it was proof that Mitchum was not only a consummate professional, but also someone who understood the balance between seriousness and levity in the creative process. Still, PC did not shy away from addressing the darker aspects of Mitchum's reputation. Known for his rebellious streak, brushes with the law, and indifference to Hollywood conventions, Mitchum had always been something of an outsider. PC admitted that as a man who valued order, family, and responsibility, he sometimes found Mitchum's lifestyle puzzling. However, rather than judging him, PC seemed to admire Mitchum's refusal to conform. He was his own man, Peck explained. He never tried to fit into anyone else's idea of what a movie star should be. That takes courage, and I respected that about him. It was a striking admission suggesting that the quiet lawyer of To Kill a Mockingbird and the brooding anti-hero of Out of the Past shared a mutual recognition of authenticity, even if they expressed it in different ways. In breaking his silence about Mitchum, Gregory Peck gave fans a rare window into the dynamic between two giants of cinema. He reminded audiences that Hollywood history is not just written in scripts or filmed in studios, but shaped by the complex relationships between the actors who bring those stories to life. PC's words revealed admiration, curiosity, and even a touch of envy for Mitchum's effortless style, balanced with his own deeply held values of discipline and structure. In the end, what PC conveyed most clearly was respect. Respect for a fellow artist whose legacy, like his own, would endure long after the lights of Hollywood's golden age had dimmed. On June 12, 2003, the world lost one of its most enduring and beloved screen legends when Gregory Peck passed away in his sleep at the age of 87. His death was attributed to bronchopneumonia, a serious lung infection that often proves fatal in elderly individuals. And it came after a long life filled with personal triumphs, professional accolades, and decades of influence both within and beyond the film industry. PC's passing was not just the quiet end of a long career, but also the closing of a chapter in Hollywood's golden age, for he had been one of its most iconic figures. Admired for his dignity, his commanding presence, and the moral authority he brought to nearly every role he played. Peck died at his home in Los Angeles, California, a city that had been central to his career and life since his early days as a young actor, struggling to make a name for himself in Hollywood. The fact that he passed away peacefully in the comfort of his own home added to the sense of calm and grace with which he seemed to carry himself throughout his life. Unlike some of his contemporaries who met with tragic or tumultuous ends, PC's death reflected the serenity and stability that he valued in both his personal and professional existence. At his bedside during those final hours was his devoted second wife, Veronique Peck, who had been his constant companion for nearly 5 decades. The bond between Gregory and Veronique had been one of the defining aspects of his later life. They married in 1955, shortly after his divorce from his first wife, and together they built not only a family, but also a life rooted in shared ideals, philanthropy, and a love of the arts. Veronique, a French journalist whom he had met while on a press tour in Paris, brought into his life a cosmopolitan flair and steadfast support that helped sustain him through the peaks and valleys of fame. That she was at his side in his final moments underscored the depth of their partnership and the enduring nature of their love story. The news of PC's death spread quickly across the world, and tributes poured in from fellow actors, directors, political leaders, and countless fans who had grown up watching him on the screen. For many, his death felt personal, as if they had lost not just a movie star, but a figure who represented integrity, compassion, and a kind of old-fashioned honor rarely seen in Hollywood. His portrayal of Atticus Finch in To Kill a Mockingbird, 1962, had already immortalized him as a symbol of decency and justice, and in the wake of his passing, that image only became more poignant. The quiet way in which he died, with Veronique nearby, seemed fitting for a man who had always exuded a calm strength, never needing theatrics to command attention or respect. In the years that followed, Veronique worked tirelessly to preserve her husband's memory and legacy, ensuring that new generations would continue to learn not only about his career, but also about the values he stood for. Memorial services in Los Angeles were attended by some of the biggest names in Hollywood alongside family, friends, and admirers from all walks of life. His death marked the end of an era, but his presence endures in the timeless roles he left behind and in the quiet nobility of the life he lived.